What's going on, guys? Billy here, and this is the new DJI Osmo Action 3. If it looks familiar, that's because DJI has gone back to the basics and brought back the same design from the first Osmo Action that came out in May of 2019. Despite the similar design, the added functionality and improvements of the Action 3 make it a great upgrade both physically and internally. Just to tease you a little bit, I want to share a quick video clip from the Action 3 here. This image quality is tack sharp, the colors are off the charts, but don't worry, we'll be getting into some more examples here from the camera towards the end of the video. Now, before we get into the details of the Action 3, I want to focus in a little bit more on DJI's entire lineup of action cameras that they've released over the past couple of years to get a better understanding of the design and name changes. The primary outlier is the second action camera DJI released called the Action 2. So they tried dropping the name Osmo, but brought it right back here with the Action 3, as this camera is officially called the Osmo Action 3. More importantly, they totally changed the design of the camera, making it a modular system with the primary camera element being standalone, so it was very compact. If you needed more power or a forward-facing screen, you could add on one of the two other modules that snapped together with magnets and were further reinforced with these little teeth. There have been other attempts at making a modular action camera system over the years, but I think that the big issue is that it's an action camera and the pieces are so tiny to the point where it can kind of become cumbersome. I mean, if you have a larger platform like a cinema camera or a drone that is modular, then you can kind of understand the benefits, but when you get something that is this small, the size difference can sort of become negligible. The only time that I really enjoyed using just the camera module on its own with the Action 2 was when mounting it on top of my FPV drone, because the difference in weight was actually really noticeable. Any other time that I was using this action camera, I pretty much always had it attached to the power or touchscreen module for the extra storage with the SD card slot and the longer battery life. So in regards to the design here, I'm kind of on the fence. Like, I can really appreciate the engineering and the amount of hours that went into trying to design a modular system that's as smart as this, with these clamping teeth that made it really easy to just switch the modules. I mean, this was really great in a lot of different ways, but I can also really appreciate just having one solid action camera system that feels a little bit more rugged when mounting to my body when skiing or mounting to my car while driving. So taking a closer look now at the Osmo Action 3, it resembles the typical action camera design. It has a big lens and sensor on the front, sitting next to a small forward-facing screen, which is a touch screen this go around, so you can switch your settings and whatnot right from the front when shooting on the fly. There's also a larger screen around the rear to further help you change your settings and frame your shot. Looking to the sides, the top of the camera is where our microphones are, and a big record button. You certainly can't miss that. On the right side is the battery door, which protects the battery, of course, and is where the SD card slot is hidden. Flipping to the opposite side is where the USB-C port is protected by another door. This side is also where the power button and quick switch button is located, so just above that USB-C port. Finally, on the bottom is a design characteristic that was kept from the previous Action 2, and that is the magnetic mount and the two teeth, as I call them, that reinforce the connection. This was probably my favorite thing about the design of the Action 2, being able to quickly swap it on different mounts. I mean, I could take this camera, add it to a mount, I could then take it off and add it to a module, and then I could add this whole system to a mount, right? So this whole entire magnetic attachment system really did make switching between mounts easy, and it just makes sense to bring it here to this larger platform on the Osmo Action 3. So for example, on my Avata here, I could just simply attach it onto here. You wanna make sure you hear the teeth click. So once they're clicked in, it's now on here nice and firm, and I can easily just take this off, switch it over to another mount, and then go on with shooting in a completely different style. Now, my three main use cases when shooting with an action camera in general is mounting it to my car with a suction cup, putting it onto my body when skiing or playing ice hockey, and by far the largest usage is when on top of a FPV drone. In all of these scenarios, being able to quickly take off the camera to change my battery, change my SD card, change the settings, or review my shot right on the camera has made it way easier thanks to this magnetic attachment system. Now, speaking of mounting, the Action 3 here has one more trick up its sleeve, and that is the ability to be mounted vertically thanks to this little brace right here. So in the past, action cameras needed this brace to be attached to any mount, but now the mounting system is just built into the camera itself, like we just showed with this magnetic mount at the bottom of the Osmo Action 3. To add the ability to mount this camera vertically though, you just slip it into the bracket, lock the clamp, and now you have that same magnetic attachment point here on the side. This means that when I put the Action 3 on my car, I can capture portrait, vertical video, and this even goes for on top of my drone. I know that every time I put vertical video in a YouTube video that is being uploaded and published published in a horizontal 16:9 format. It looks really weird, but this is going to be perfect for shooting videos for social media that accommodate that vertical aspect ratio. So I'm pretty much just talking about TikTok and Instagram. I already know that there's going to be a ton of people in the comment section talking about how horrible it is to shoot vertical video. I mean, even with the Mini 3, people wrote off the rotating camera and said that it was stupid, likely because there are video purists that think video should only be captured and consumed in a traditional horizontal format. This is something that social media has really made us adopt over the years, watching and consuming vertical video, which means video creators need to now pivot and shoot videos in a vertical format, and the Action 3 just makes that easy. Thanks again to this small little brace that gives us a mounting point on the side here so that we can shoot vertical video. Now, being somebody that uploads a lot of video over on my Instagram, which by the way, if you don't follow me, my handle is @BillyKyle, but being somebody that uses Instagram a lot, I'm happy to say that gone are the days where I have to take the FPV footage that I capture and squeeze the frame down to the middle section. Shooting vertically gives you the full field of view for a much more immersive experience regardless of what you're doing. So this doesn't just apply to mounting to a FPV drone. You could mount this camera vertically on any mount that you wanted. Now, the final thing that I want to touch on here in regards to the design of the Action 3 is its ruggedness. And really, any action camera that you buy is going to be made very durable, but DJI has gone the extra mile to ensure that this camera is going to shoot regardless of the conditions. So the two areas that DJI really focused on is in cold temperatures and underwater. The battery life when shooting with the Action 3 is great in normal, everyday temperatures and continues to perform really well as the temperature drops. This chart here that you guys are looking at on the screen shows the type of shooting that you can expect from the different resolution and frame rate options available on this camera in different temperature situations. In each of these tests, this includes rock steady turned on too, which is impressive as the camera's handling that processing on board as well as recording video. On the other end of the spectrum, unlike the Action 2 here, the Action 3 is not prone to overheating. This Action 2 was like a little heat box. It actually could sometimes burn your hand to the touch when using it and shooting with it for too long, but the Action 3 basically doesn't overheat at all. I mean, the only overheating issues that I had is when recording 4K at 120 frames per second, and I had to record for over like 20 minutes in one single clip in order to actually get this thing to overheat. But when recording 4K video at 60 frames per second, which is what I do mostly, I never had an overheating issue once. Now, the rated depth that this camera is able to reach underwater has also been improved and can be further increased with the addition of a waterproof housing. I personally don't do much in the water though, especially with a camera, so I'll be able to get by with what the camera is capable of handling on its own. Now, because we were just wrapping up the summer season here in Philadelphia, I haven't really been able to live with this camera through cold climates. I was gonna try and throw it inside of my freezer to see how long it could record for, but I figured I'd wait until the skiing season comes around and see how this camera fares. Now, DJI has also made it really easy to live with this camera through other battery improvements, like the ability to fast charge your battery when charging through the Action camera itself here. It's funny, DJI actually calls it supercharging. So when you plug in the Action 3 here, it actually shows that your battery is supercharging on the UI, kind of like a Tesla, which I thought is funny. So you can supercharge your Action 3. They also have a battery case here. You can fit 3 batteries and charge them on the go. It kind of acts as a charging hub as well, which is nice and makes things easy. And it's kind of funny because this resembles the DJI Mic case. They've just kind of taken the same kind of simple concept and turned it into a battery case, which I find very cool and very helpful. But in terms of the battery on like day-to-day use, I have no problem recording for like an hour 15 to an hour and 20 minutes in 4K video at 60 frames per second. So you can get a lot of shooting time on just one battery. And speaking of video, we should probably get into the video and the photos that this thing shoots because it's a camera after all. So to set the basis, here are the specs that you can expect from the Action 3, which for the most part are exactly what we got in the Action 2, which really makes this just a new housing for the same camera. I mean, everything across the board is the same. The sensor size, the bitrate, the field of view, video resolutions, frame rate options, literally exactly the same. I'm a little bit stumped to see DJI not giving us any sort of improvements by the way of like an increased bitrate to like at least 150 megabits per second, or even like an increased resolution. Give us something like 5.2K or 5.4K. But if you look at DJI's entire product lineup, not just their cameras, but their drones as well, they're not very inclined to go above 4K. So in the Air 2S, we've got the ability to shoot 5.4K. In the Mavic 3 Cine, their professional level Mavic drone, you can only only shoot 5.1K in like a widescreen format. So again, they're not inclined to go up to like 6K or 8K, at least just yet. There is, however, one little difference that was explained to me by one of the engineers at DJI because I was really trying to pull some strings here. Like, what is different about these cameras? And they told me that the Osmo Action 3 uses an IMX686 sensor. So this is the same sensor that is in the Pocket 2 that is able to capture 64 megapixel images that then can also bin down to 16 megapixels. So this is a quad Bayer sensor inside of the Osmo Action 3. And because of this, we get some really sharp looking video. Now, before I cause any sort of confusion, let me quickly backtrack. No, you cannot capture 64 megapixel images here with this camera. Just know that it is capable of capturing a very high resolution image and is then downsampling that image in order to give us something that looks very sharp. So with that said, the video that this camera captures is nothing short of excellent. The image is tack sharp. The colors are honestly perfect right out of the camera. Like, I don't think I would need to do any tweaking after the fact. And the dynamic range is great too. The bulk of the clips that I've captured and that you are watching here on the screen show off the capabilities of this camera really well. For example, when mounting the camera to the side of my car, the sun was hitting on the opposite side, casting a shadow on the wheels, the body, and on the ground. And even with the black paint in my car, there is still a good amount of detail there, as the camera also has to adjust for the bright exposure on the guardrail, the ground, the sky, and anything else that I was passing by. Now, because I am so big into drones, the bulk of my time shooting with the Action 3 was mounted onto my DJI Avata, ripping around down at the shore, and when flying south along the beach with the sun right in front of my drone, so right in my view, the camera did a really good job at exposing for the ground and taming the sun as a big bright spot in the sky. This is just another example of how much dynamic range this camera has, which is really important in an action camera because you won't always have the best lighting conditions. You really need to trust in the auto exposure that it's going to do its job. Now, when we spin the drone around and fly north with the sun at my back, this is where you really get to see it shine, as the colors are just popping off of the screen. Like I said, I don't think that I would even have to touch this footage out of the camera. It is that good. I've been talking up the Avata camera and how good it is to the point where you wouldn't need to add another camera on top, but I might be eating my words and mounting the Action 3 on top from now on, because to me, this video looks as crisp as can be. I even mounted the Action 3 to my car in a similar situation where the light was favorable and the image across the board just looks perfect. If I had to do it over again, I might not shoot in the widest field of view at 155 degrees, but in my opinion, it still looks great. Now, I'm gonna leave a link in the description to some video files that you can download and take a look at for yourself on your computer so you can get an idea of just how sharp this image quality is. Now, because I know that people will ask, I took some photos as well with the Action 3, really not many, but I will include them for download in that link in the description. For me, action cameras are usually about video. Like, I'm always capturing video with my action cameras, and the Action 3 here knocks it out of the park. So if you want to learn more about the photos, just go download those in the description and check those out for yourself. Now, aside from the image quality, the camera here in the Action 3 has also been improved through two different means, and that is the stabilization and the microphones. To me, the fun of an action camera is just mounting it around in different places to experiment with different shots that you can capture. I had a lot of fun messing around with my suction cup mount in different spots on my car, like on the outside and on the inside, and no matter where I put it, the image was super stable. This is all thanks to DJI's new and improved Rocksteady 3. I even tried running a little with the camera, and it mitigated all the extra arm movement from me trying to seem somewhat athletic for the sake of this video. Now, here is the real example though, and this shows the power of Rocksteady. This here is a view from the inside of my DJI goggles 2 when flying my Avata that is completely unstable with no electronic image stabilization added whatsoever. The wind at the shore was really ripping, causing the drone and camera to shake pretty good during my flight. When you look at the footage from the Action 3 though, you would never be able to tell that there was any wind at all. It looks perfectly smooth and stable, just like all the other clips that I've shown here in this video captured on this camera. Another big improvement made here is to the microphone. So inside of the Action 3, we now have 3 microphones compared to the 2 microphones in the Action 2. So 1 extra microphone, and it makes this camera sound really good. Take a listen for yourself to a clip that really has nothing to do with this video.
This thing is kind of like the perfect little camera to just bring around with you. You have this nice wide field of view. You don't have to hold it out too far. I think the microphones are all right. I hope I'm not covering them, but yeah, it's pretty good.
We got a crowd down here.
Give a couple week review of the Tesla Model S.
It's amazing. Best driving experience ever, Billy. And I'm not joking, actually.
Because you
really
don't have to drive it?
Because I don't have to drive it. There's nothing to do. You just get in and it drives.
Now remember, the bulk of my testing was done down at the shore, and that video clip was recorded next to the ocean on top of a dune, and the wind was ripping. And it did a really good job at mitigating that wind noise and giving me a nice, usable audio track. I mean, really, if you wanted to use this camera as a small little portable vlogging camera that you could literally fit inside of your pocket or any little pouch inside of your backpack, you could get away with running and gunning with just this little setup, just using the onboard microphones because they are that good. Now let's go over one more thing that I think is gonna make this camera very enticing, and that is the price. $329 for just the camera itself. That is very competitive for what the Action 3 offers. I'll put a little chart up on the screen that also goes over some of the pricing for like the different combo packages and the different accessories, but this is priced to sell. I sound like such a salesman right now, but really the price of this is going to make it a really great buy considering what else is on the market and what everything else is priced at in regards to action cameras. So that wraps up my first initial review here of the Action 3. I'm looking forward to testing out in the cold, but for me, it's gotta pass in terms of build, durability, and image quality. This thing is going to live on top of all of my FPV drones, so I cannot wait to continue to use it more. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in the Action 3, feel free to check the link in the description to purchase it through my affiliate link. Anything helps out. I usually don't push that, but I'm gonna try it. Anyway, thank you again for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.